Let me give you the solution to the puzzle that I left in my last clip. This is a game between Gunina and Zagnitsa from the FIDE Women's World Team Championship. And I left you with this position. Black has just played the king to e5. It's white to play, so my question was, what would you play here if you had the white pieces? Well, in the game, white played bishop to e4, which looks like the most natural move on the board to attack the pawn on g6. But black's reply was a bit of a shocker. Black played g5, and this is a winning move. I really like this breakthrough. It's very unexpected. In fact, this theme has been seen in quite a few games, and we'll come on to that in a second. So let's see what happened in the game. White took on h5, black took on h4. Now the point is that this pawn is running home, but this one can be stopped by the black king. So this is what happened in the game. And the king comes back to stop the pawn. This is why black actually moved the king into the centre on the last turn, and you can see that white's king can't come to e2 because that square is controlled by the knight here. And after this, white resigned. It's impossible to stop the pawn. Let's just go back and look at a couple of variations. So if instead h takes g5, well, h4, and there's no difference. The pawn still goes home, and this pawn can still be stopped by the black king. No difference there. And if we just go back to the starting position, well, of course, white does not need to play bishop e4. The simplest way for white to play is just to take on h5. Now here there's a threat to bring the knight back to f5 to capture on h4, so white can actually just play bishop e4 here, and now the position is too blocked. It's just going to be a draw. For example, if black plays knight f5, this can just be exchanged off and the position is completely blocked. Basically, white and black just wait with their kings and it's a draw. This breakthrough with g5, as I said, it's actually it's very surprising, but actually it's reasonably well known. I gave an example of this from one of Magnus Carlsen's games in my candidates preview. If you can go back and look at that clip if you like. But let me give you another example of this. This is a game from some time ago, from 1978, between two grandmasters, Hans Rey and Lubomir Fatachnik. And let me just take you through from this position. So it's a fairly regular position. Black has some advantage here just because his pawn structure is superior to white. So you can see that white has an isolated pawn on e4. And Fatachnik now exchange queens. So we've got a king and pawn endgame, and the best thing to do in this kind of situation is to bring your king into the centre as far up the board as possible, as quickly as possible. So black does that, and white needs to prevent the king coming to d4, so king e3. So black has the advantage here. His king is further up the board than white's, and the pawn is isolated. And now he plays an excellent move, a4. Now I really like this move because it simply means that if black's king ever breaks through to b2, then this pawn is just a few squares from the queening square. It also means that these pawns are cramped, so there are no tempo moves, and black also has this reserve tempo move. So black is taking control here, and white can only wait. So white waited. Now, very good move from black, f6. And here I think that if black plays f5, I think this is winning. I don't want to go into detail in variations now, but I think f5 is a winning move for black. But instead, black played the seemingly natural g5. Now if white continues to wait with the king, for example king f3, then king d4 is winning straight away. White can't keep hold of the pawn on e4. Or if I just go back, if king d3, oh, I beg your pardon, if king d3, then black takes on g4 and just breaks through to capture the h pawn. Simple win. But in this position, after g5, white found, well, perhaps you can see the move very clearly now. White found g4. Shocking move. I think this kind of move is especially difficult to see when black is clearly in the better position, so you don't expect moves like this. Let's have a look at the details. Now this is still very, very complicated, but white is winning in all variations. So let's have a look. Well, first of all, this is a very simple variation. So again, we have this situation where both players have passed pawns, but it's much easier for white's king to control this one than black's king, because this f pawn gets in the way. So here, and the king comes back, and well, if king e6, then the white king just scoops up the h pawn. It's an easy win. And if f5, and this is a very well known situation indeed, where these two pawns control the black king, and black's king can't take either pawn, and white just wins very, very easily. So let's go back. So after g4, black took on g4 and h5. So that's the point. The white pawn is breaking through to the queening square. Now if f5, now this is slightly more complicated, but white wins like this. Okay, f4 check looks complicated, but actually white's king manages to control these three pawns. Black's king has to get back to prevent the h pawn from queening, and now the e pawn breaks through, and one of those pawns is going to reach the queening square. So black has to play king e6. White's king comes round and takes the g pawn. So it looks as though black has managed to get things under control again. And of course, if white's king retreats now, then king takes h5 and black would be winning. But remarkably, white can break through here. Everything works for white here. And now the point is that when white queens, it's going to be check. Black is desperately unlucky in this game. So both pawns race towards the queening square, and both sides get a queen, but because it's check, then the initiative is still with white. So if the king comes here, then queen h8 is mate. The king must advance, and now white is able to force an exchange of queens. Everything works. So the queens are exchanged, and now white's king is just that bit closer to the queenside pawns. It still just wins by one tempo. Let's just take a look at this. So we race towards the pawns. And here black resigned because king b5 and the pawn goes through. Very, very unlucky for black, but a really nice breakthrough and worth watching out for. Let's just go back and look at this position. So g5 and g4, this nice theme. I actually feature this game in my DVD, my Power Play DVD, Practical Pawn Endgames. You can find that in the ChessBase shop if you're interested. I go right from basic pawn endgames to more complex situations like this, but all with a very practical view, situations that normally arise in our pawn endgames, not just in studies. Thanks very much for watching. I'll be posting more videos over the coming weeks, and we've got some very exciting tournaments coming up. There's the Alekhine Memorial starting tomorrow actually, and later on in May there's Norway Chess, which will feature Magnus Carlsen and Vishy Anand. See you soon.